Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Connor, and today I'm going to be continuing my 2017 reading wrap-up with books 41 through 50. As per usual with this year, for some reason, I've been really on top of doing individual reviews for things, so I have a lot of individual reviews for these, but you guys know how these go, so let's get started. The 41st thing that I read in 2017 is going to be Birthright Volume 2, which is called Call to Adventure. This one is by Image Comics, and it follows this family, really, where the younger son ends up disappearing on his birthday, and then he comes back a year later, but he's actually a 30-year-old man now, so he's actually now older than his older brother. It turns out that he went to a parallel world, and he grew up in that world, and then now has come back to his original world, and crazy stuff is about to happen. There's magic and creatures and sword fighting. It's all very exciting, very fun. I really like the artwork in here. It's just very, very vivid, and I like the coloring as well, so it's just really cool. And this one, I didn't think that we got as much as we did in the first one, so I didn't really like it as much. I don't feel like anything super important happened, although I do like some of the things that have started to happen. I feel like a lot of it is just building up tension and stuff like that. I really do like the parents plot that's happening. I really enjoy seeing how they react to their son coming back and actually being like 20-something years older than he should be. The fact that he disappeared affected the relationship, and now that he's back, it's also affecting their relationship. So I really like the parents, actually. They're like my favorite part of this comic book series so far. So I'm looking forward to volume 3 and figuring out what else is happening, what's gonna happen in the future. But I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, 4 stars, somewhere in there. The next thing I read in 2017 is going to be Windwitch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchlands series, I believe. And I read the first one last year, I think, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. There's some things between the female characters and the male characters, like relationship stuff, that I didn't find, I don't know, believable. But I had a feeling that I was gonna like Windwitch a lot better, and I did like it a lot better. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I've seen a lot of people say that not much happens in this, and I disagree. I think that a lot of the characters' backstories have started to get filled in, and you really know about the characters a lot more, and you understand their situations a little bit better, as well as the world has been developed a lot better. You start to learn about the different populations that are surrounding where the main two girls, Assault and Safi, grew up, and so you start to understand why some things happened in the first book the way that they did, and why things are going to happen in the future the way that they will. Obviously, I really like the powers and everything like that, because I love people with powers. I just want superpowers, please. And I think that this book took the story in some very interesting directions, and I'm just really pumped to find out what happens next. I actually ship some characters in this book, which is so weird and does not happen very often, so I'm in it. I'm here for it. I think that the pacing with this one was a little slower than the first one, but I think that that lent to learning more about the world and getting more invested, which is exactly what happened to me. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book I read is Veiled Intentions by Michael R. Miller. This is the second book in the Dragon's Blade trilogy, I believe. In the first one, we follow a dragon named Darnawir. Dragons in this world have lost their dragon form, and so they just look like humans. And in the first book, the dragons were attacked by these demons, and Darnawir, who is the prince of the dragons, gets mortally wounded, and so a wizard turns him back into a baby to save his life, and then he grows up with human parents and in a human civilization. So he is a dragon, but he has human morals. And then as he comes of age, he becomes the king of the dragons because he inherits the dragon's blade, and then he has to be king of the dragons and lead his people, as well as try to improve relationships between the different races that are in this world. I was sent this book by the author in exchange for an honest review, which I have done, and I'll leave that up in the card symbol if you want to check it out. I think it continues some very interesting things, and I think that the next book is going to be the most exciting book because some crazy stuff happens in this one. This one also was a little bit of 2 books in one. There was a plot and a resolution a little bit in the first half, and then the second half had some other things going on with some other resolutions happening at the very, very end. So I really felt like you get your bang for your buck with this one. I also think that Darnawir, the main character, had some real consequences for some of the things that he did in the first book, which I was iffy about. So I'm glad that situation was realistic. And I also liked seeing some of the other characters as well. A big pro for this series for me is that the magic system has some real consequences. Using magic is really really painful to your body. It feels good at the time, but then later on it's painful and it's actually toxic and poisonous. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It's quite long, actually. The writing is pretty small, so it took me a little while to get through this one, but definitely worth it. The next book I read was actually a part of my Owl Crate Junior box for March, and I did a review on it, which will be up in the card symbol, and that is Hello Universe by Erin and Entrada Kelly. This one follows a boy named Virgil who is misunderstood and lonely, and he doesn't have very many friends, and he just wants to make some connections with people his age and people that understand him. He has a guinea pig, so you learn a little bit about guinea pigs in this book. You also follow a girl named Valencia, who is deaf. So you learn a little bit about deaf children when they're denied deaf culture experiences, as well as going to a school with all hearing people and how that affects their learning experience and how that affects their life experience in general. Yeah, really enjoyed that aspect. You also follow Kaori and her younger sister. Kaori is a psychic maybe, and she can read the stars, and she's just very quirky and weird. And she is sort of friends with Virgil, and he goes to her for advice and to get his fortune read and everything like that. And the last character you follow is Chet, the bully. So you follow him as, I don't know, he's just being a bully and being annoying. This book has themes of loneliness and friendship and all that kind of stuff, as well as exploring some of those diverse things that I talked about. So I ended up really liking this book, and I gave it 4 stars. Again. I then finished up the Death Note manga series. I read volumes 11 and 12. I ended up giving 11 4 stars and 12 4.5 stars. I think that the second half of the Death Note manga series was not as good as the first half because I just was so enthralled with the first half, but it was still really good, and the series ended in a way that I just don't think that it could have ended any way else. It follows a guy named Light Yagami who finds something called the Death Note, and when you write someone's name in the Death Note, they end up dying. There's a bunch of rules and they get explained as the series goes along, but that's the basic premise. And he's trying to make a better world by killing off all these criminals while still remaining anonymous. And overall, I feel like it went on just a little bit too long, but I really did enjoy it. And if you want to know what some of the artwork looks like, it looks like this. And I'll be doing a review on the whole manga and anime show when I finish the anime at some point. I feel like I've talked about Death Note a lot. The next book I finished is Dragonwatch by Brandon Mull. This is the first book in the sequel series to the Fablehaven series by Brandon Mull. In the first series, you follow siblings Seth and Kendra when they find out that their grandparents are the caretakers of a magical menagerie called Fablehaven, and then they get sucked into a whirlwind adventure journey when they come into contact with the different magical beings of Fablehaven. I can't really talk about the plot of Dragonwatch because it literally is a direct sequel to the Fablehaven series. It picks up maybe a month after Fablehaven is over, so you have to read the first 5 books of that to read this one, but I absolutely love this one. It gave the exact same feel as the Fablehaven series. It has some really cool illustrations like they had in the original series as well. And I just think that Brandon Mull is so good at weaving stories together, as well as being accessible for middle grade people, but also making it entertaining enough for adults to read as well and have a good time and pick out certain things that maybe children wouldn't pick out. And I just think that Fablehaven and his worlds in general are so large that he can do pretty much whatever he wants in them, and he can explore a lot of different facets of his worlds. And so this one does that and explores the dragon facet of the Fablehaven world, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I did film a review for this, which I will leave up in the card symbol as well. After that, I read the bind-up of the 3 parts in The Promise, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a comic book that follows the TV show. I did a book review for this as well, which I will leave up in the card symbol, but it's gonna have some spoilers for the cartoon show because this is a sequel to that, and I show some pictures in here that will spoil which characters survive the TV show, stuff like that, but it's not gonna spoil too much, I guess. I really think that this did a good job of bridging the gap between the Avatar: The Last Airbender series and the Legend of Korra series, which is also a TV show, and it really explains how the world goes from being how it is in The Last Airbender to being how it is in The Legend of Korra, and how different they are, and it starts to show some stepping stones of how that came to be. The artwork is also very similar to how the TV show was, and I really think that this edition is the edition that people should get because it has notes on the side of the pages that talk about the panels and what the writers and the artists were thinking when they were putting together this story. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I am looking forward to continuing the comic books of Aang's story, which I think there are 5 of these, so look forward to those in future hauls at some point. The 49th thing I read in 2017 is going to be Descender Volume 2. This was nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards, and so I read it for that. Descender follows a boy named Tim-21. He's a robot, he's an AI system, in a world, a science fiction world where humans have spread throughout galaxies. And after the humans are attacked by these enormous robots, they decide to get rid of all of the robots and AI systems, but Tim-21 somehow survived. The humans then find out that the AI systems, like Tim-21, are somehow related to the robots that attacked them. They are hunting Tim-21 to try to find out how they're related and figure out how to protect themselves from these enormous robots. The artwork in these are very watercolor-like, and the flashbacks are in browns, and then the actual comic book is a little bit more vibrant than that. But I am really enjoying the plot. I think that the artwork is harder for me to get into than a lot of other comic books that I've read, and I think one of the reasons is that a lot of the backgrounds are not filled in at all, and so it just seems like a white background with no context of their setting or anything like that. I just wish that the settings would be a little bit more detailed. I don't know, I just want more detail. But as I said, I really enjoy the story, so I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. If we're being honest, I already forgot a lot of the stuff that happened in this, so I'm gonna have to reread it before I read Volume 3, but I'm definitely interested to read Volume 3. I don't know what I was doing at the same time as reading this that I don't remember too much, but now that I'm flipping through it, it's jogging my memory. So yeah, excited to read Volume 3, but this one was about a 3.5 stars for me. And the 50th thing that I read in 2017 is gonna be Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. I also did a book review for this, which will be up at the card symbol, if it is allowed to be. I don't know how many cards I've already put up there. This one is a nonfiction book that follows Atul Gawande as he's exploring the role that medicine should play in the final stages of humans' lives. The first half of the book really covers aging and the process of medicine playing a role in people aging and prolonging lives, and nursing homes versus assisted living versus living with family, that kind of stuff, as well as the role of hospice, and how a lot of people value quality of life over length of life, and that needs to be a factor in how people are aging and how they're taken care of as they age. Then the second half of the book deals with illnesses and cancer and how medicine should play a role in those things. For instance, one of the things that I found super interesting in this book was that a lot of people will continuously fight and continuously get all of these different treatments for cancer. And if you ask someone at the beginning of their fight against cancer what they're willing to give up and what they're not willing to give up, a lot of the time they don't end up keeping those priorities. And I didn't even know this, but a lot of people that go through chemo end up living less time than they would have if they had not done chemo, and their quality of life would have been better too. So it was all very interesting, and I really enjoyed those aspects of it. Overall, really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Definitely recommend this book to people that are interested in that kind of thing, or people that have grandparents that are aging, or parents that are aging and they're worried about their safety and what environment, what situations they should be looking into if they're looking at putting their parents or their grandparents in assisted living situations. Very interesting. Recommend it. So those are the next 10 things that I read in 2017. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what you've been reading recently. Have you read any of the things that I've read? What were your thoughts on them? I would love to know. And I will talk to you guys next time.